Boys don't play with Barbies, but corporate America could change that. Now, with rising support for gender fluidity, there's been some talk of switching to a more gender-neutral marketing approach. As a mother, I recognize that society will have both negative and positive impacts on my son, and I feel the need to really closely monitor what those will be. Now, some of you are also parents, and you can identify with that. Some of you will end up in the marketing industry, but all of us will have to live with these children who are impacted by these marketing decisions. Now, it's important to consider the developmental impacts this will have, the financial impacts this will have on the advertising industry, and also the social impacts this will have on all children. Let's begin with the developmental impacts. Now, there are both positive and negative impacts this could have. The positive being that children might be able to express themselves more effectively. Now, there is a CNN article that discusses how gender-based toys affect children, and it's quoted as saying, "Gendered toys limit the range of skills and attributes that both boys and girls can explore through play. They may prevent children from developing their full range of interests, preferences, and talents." This article is also quoted describing a study that shows that boys were uninterested in feminine toys regardless of color, and girls were interested in male toys, but only if they had the colors that were associated with feminine toys, like purple and pink. Now, if we were to open this up and do a gender-based neutral marketing approach, kids might have the opportunity and the mindset to try new things and develop their full range of interests, preferences, and talents. The other side of this is that kids find a lot of security in their genders, and taking that away might have a negative impact on them. It might make them feel less secure and less happy. There's a study by Purdue University that shows that kids as young as 2 understand gender as a concept, and it's one of the few things that they can identify with as they grow. All of kids' preferences are changing as they grow and make changes, so it's nice for them to have one thing that's solid and secure and unchanging. So, taking that away may or may not have a negative effect. Now, gender-neutral marketing may help certain kids express themselves, but it's unclear. The financial impacts, however, are equally inconclusive. They're very interesting, though. So let's move on to the financial impacts of gender-neutral marketing. Now, again, there are positive and negative impacts on the finances that would be involved in this. The positive being that we might be able to open up our demographic. Now, when you market to one gender, you immediately knock out 50% of your client base. So, if we included all of those people and instead marketed based on universal demographics, such as arts and sciences or sports, because all genders have preferences within those 3, we might be able to include more kids in each marketing approach. The other side of that, the negative, is that we tend to identify with our own demographic, and kids don't have a whole lot of things that define them at that age because they're changing so much, so often. That gender is one of the things that's really easy to latch onto and really effective. So, perhaps gender-neutral marketing will make it harder to advertise to children and financially impact the toys industry, as well as the advertising industry. Now, moving on from the financial impacts, it's also important to look at possibly the most important of these impacts, which is the social. Now, the 2 sides of this would be tendency to befriend kids of the same gender and tendency to bully kids of opposite gender. Both could be affected by gender-neutral marketing. Now, the negative, again, of this is shown through a quote from an interview with Andrea Corwin. Now, when she moved to a new area, when she was young, she was able to make friends faster by connecting with other kids based on gender similarities. At that age, she says, kids don't really know themselves well. Gender is an easy identifier, and she was very successful in making friends. Now, to back up her point a little bit, there was a study done in 2009 by Janice Hassett on 34 monkeys. Now, this is reported in National Geographic. This study showed that chimps tended to go towards the same kinds of toys based on their gender and play with the same groups. The boy monkeys would play with their trucks, and the girl monkeys would go and play with their dolls or with their stuffed animals, showing their maternal side and maternal instincts. Now, if kids band together based on these preferences, then taking that away might have negative impacts. Now, children also tend to bully those they don't understand, specifically opposite genders, which is why gender-neutral marketing might help to unify those children. Andrea Corwin also loves to fish, she says. The boys used to tease her because she didn't fit in with what they thought of as a girl. So, perhaps if gender-neutral marketing had been around, she would have been able to show that girls can fish too. Now, the conclusion that we can see is that gender expression can be seen in society in the wild and pretty much everywhere. It's clear that individual gender identity is affected both by society and by biology, but it's not super inclusive which is stronger. If stores follow through on this idea, the definite changes would happen emotionally and socially, and financially for the advertising industry. Now, it's unclear why society feels the need to separate kids by gender. There are definite impacts socially and developmentally. But all we can do is wait and see if someday boys will also play with Barbies.